So an ongoing topic, I should say, for me is this relationship, I would say, between the jiva and awareness that you are. And I've read 2 different satsangs on the website that describe this relationship.
Between the jiva and awareness.
Yeah. And so this is from Daniel, if you know Daniel.
Yeah.
And he says, his description, he's writing in response to somebody who's having uncomfortable feelings. And he says, fearfully disidentify with the action figure.
Sorry.
The action figure, which is the jiva, and step back into your accurate identity, the knower of the action figure. Here's the kind of the key part. Don't worry, we're not disowning the action figure. We're only disowning the idea that the action figure is your primary status. You're just shifting him or her to the backseat, secondary position, so you can enjoy your primary identity as the free, knowing awareness you already are right now. So I think that's quite a beautiful description.
It's very well put.
And,
yeah.
and not, it's, so that seems clear to me.
Yeah.
In another satsang, Sundari says this line that I've heard elsewhere, which is, you are awareness full stop. You are not the awareness plus the action figure.
That can be said as well.
So along these lines, you mentioned the other day, your jiva, Arlindo jiva, has a bank account, and I have a bank account, and they don't need to be shared.
The karmic account, you mean?
No, I'm talking literally about money, just as an example.
Okay.
It's not ultimately yours, but you don't get to take my money and I don't get to take yours.
Right.
So there is some kind of connection.
Yeah, all souls are connected to what is called in some scripts the overall soul. They are fundamentally one soul, the universal soul. But they appear as a stream called the individual soul. And this individual soul is accountable to its actions. You understand? And the results of its actions come to himself precisely. And it's all about that. We are one soul, one jiva, the universal eternal jiva, but appearing as many. As far as owning your jiva, it is important to the degree that you cannot pretend that you are awareness and at the same time behave as a jerk, right? And then you say, well, what kind of honoring your jiva it is? You are just feeding your jivas with whatsoever desires and fears you have here. Therefore, you are just violating the field just to fulfill your desires and fears. So it's not a beautiful honoring. So honoring the jiva is like, so you honor your jiva, so if there is some moments of difficulties, you don't deny him completely, but
honoring or owning?
Honoring. Yeah. So you honor your jiva, you love your jiva. So the very concept of loving your jiva, no? Where it comes from. You see Ramji and other people, and Sundari especially helps people on the psychological level, say, love your jiva. So it does not help to say, hey, don't forget about your suffering, your mental confusion, your schizophrenia, your whatever, because you are fundamentally awareness. It does not help to say that. The first step is love your jiva, take it easy, you understand? Expose your mind to knowledge and follow the scriptures on Dharma and Karma, get your mind clear and so on. And then one day you're going to understand that you are made of awareness and awareness alone. That is your primary identity, and fundamentally is the only identity you have, in truth. But you appear as a jiva. Some people including in our Sampradaya, which is the one coming from James. Some people teach more on the level of the jiva, some people teach more on the level of Ishvara, like Karma Yoga, and some people teach a little bit more, giving emphasis to the absolute awareness we all are. So when we follow the scriptures, we're going to teach according to the scriptures. But when we answer a question or write a satsang in response to a question, and then it's going to be addressing more here, more Ishvara, or more Jiva, and sometimes the Jiva is suffering, is having conflict due to misunderstandings or confusions or misinterpretations of what's going on. So we try to help the Jiva by saying love the Jiva and understand the Jiva, and you understand, and so on. So that's what Daniel was trying to say. So your awareness, you're free. Keep your mind on the fact that you are but awareness, but at the same time don't deny your Jiva. Although the Jiva is not really real, it exists, and it experiences reality as duality. So we need to own the Jiva, love the Jiva, help the Jiva to relax, and by the Jiva is going to be fit to understand that the Jiva is not really the Jiva. You understand? But it begins by owning and loving the Jiva. That's why we have to get over low self-esteem. A jiva with low self-esteem has a disturbed mind, and emotionally, mentally is always disturbed. Most of one's actions is about trying to gain approval and love. And then anytime love does not seem to come one's way, one is turned into hate, for example. So that disturbed mind cannot do the good work. So therefore, the jiva has to develop positive self-esteem, relax, own its actions, its thoughts, go through the process of improvement, betterment, self-development, although it's not real, but it needs to. The equipment has to be purified, although it's not real, because the knowledge of the fundamental identity of the equipment depends on a purified mind. Therefore, we need to work on purifying a mind that is not real, but it's the only instrument we have to resolve the problem of the jiva. The whole thing about realizing one's true identity is to get rid of psychological suffering and be established as the light of consciousness. You understand? And it's not that one is going to be 100% free from any kind of pain or even suffering. But it's like the scripture says, it's like alleviates to an extent degree, or it's a buffalo, or it's an airbag. When life hits you, on the physical or mental level, one may feel like, okay, I have the knowledge, and immediately any potential suffering gets neutralized. So that's what it is.
So my question isn't really about the practice and how one attains that, but what is the nature of the truth,
Yeah.
as best it can be described. So that's the perspective that I take when I'm asking the question. It seems like there's two kind of extremes. One extreme is what you mentioned yesterday, someone who says, I'm awareness, therefore I am God. That would be an extreme of one end of it. The other one is a full and utter negation of the jiva.
Yeah.
Like that is, I am just not the jiva. Yeah. Therefore there is nothing to be discussed, understood. It's not real and I am not that. And
Yeah.
kind of a disowning of it.
This is denial. This is denial. I mean, someone like Nisargadatta Maharaj was the best example of the extreme up here. He used to only talk about the absolute, and he used to deny anything on the phenomenal level. Okay, you come with any question related to the body mind, and he would discard it. Forget it. We only talk about the absolute. to the degree that he got the cancer that he got because he would not listen to his doctors and he kept smoking weed one after the other until it got him, right? So some people are more like that. Some people are going to talk more on how to help the jiva. There are some people who know who they are and they offer some kind of satsangs. And the satsangs is mostly about spiritual therapy, trying to help the jiva to feel better and to heal some of those conflicting thoughts and emotions and so on. It's preparing the ground. So it was the work more or less of Osho Rajneesh, trying to work on this level of the jiva. At the same time, present the jiva with techniques to relax, what he used to call meditation techniques. So it's work on the psychological level of the jiva. Meditate and then start understand that you are not the body, you are not the mind. And then some people are going to teach Karma Yoga, how Ishvara works, what is Ishvara, what's the field, the relationship between the jiva, the field and the Ishvara. And that has a huge relaxing effect on the mind of the jiva, more than any other kind of therapy or meditation. And it's grounded on one's day-to-day activity of life. Once you understand it, becomes your attitude. So it's a great therapy, Karma Yoga, to relax, to prepare the mind, to purify the mind. And then there are some gurus, whether they are self-realized or not, they are going to talk about the absolute. And some of them, they are just going to talk still of the absolute in duality as states other than what you really are, something that you have to achieve. That is the misleading aspect of a lot of these Advaita talks you find around. They talk about spiritual awakening and states of consciousness, samadhi and so on. So they will talk about the absolute, but as an experience, as an object of experience. And there are people that does not talk as an object of experience, the Neo-Advaita, some of the Neo-Advaita, he talks as the truth, the knowledge. I am that. Your consciousness and all there is consciousness, and all is you. And then people, so, okay, great, it sounds good. But yet, how am I going to realize it? I need some tools, I need some knowledge, some understanding so that I can realize it and remain firm in that realization. You understand? So it depends. People may talk from different, but the ultimate truth is the jiva is not a jiva. The jiva is consciousness, but it does not help many people. So what Daniel said is nice. It's a common analogy. Say like so. Before you're in the back seat, now you jump into the. No, before you were in the front seat, and then you jump in your back seat, and then you see your jiva operating the machinery, and you remain as the witness. Does it help, Dave?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. It depends on all of that. It can be said, and it's true. Yes.
To help me a little bit more regarding this answer, which involved the word jiva quite a few times, please clarify the difference between the eternal and the non-eternal jiva.
Yeah, the eternal jiva is a creature or an object with three bodies, and with the subtle body which reflects awareness to different degrees and perceives its environment. So this is the eternal jiva. It's a generalization of what a jiva is. It's an object with three bodies and with a subtle body that reflects consciousness and allows it to observe its environment. This is the eternal jiva. It's built out of the 5 elements and the 3 energies, and it's modified, composed by and by, over and over. It has what we call many different species. And among all these jivas, the human jivas seem to be the ones with most developed intellect, and with the potential to realize its fundamental essential nature as that which was never born will never die. That's the only good thing going for the human jivas. Because there is a price tag attached to it. All the other creatures do not suffer psychological suffering. We have this free will, or this intelligent self-awareness or reflection that allows us to say, oh, I exist and I know that I exist. And then with that we have the possibility to ask some intelligent questions and come up with the understanding of, okay, this is the purpose of life. The purpose of life is just to understand my true fundamental nature and relax, because before we really understand our true fundamental nature, the jiva does not really, is not much of an enjoyer. You understand? So as opposed, it's the universal overall soul, or the individual jiva, and the universal jiva. It's one phenomenon. You remember we talked about it's all impersonal, because fundamentally we are made out of the same stuff. Awareness plus Maya produce the 3 energies and the 5 elements, and then they are going to be blended on different proportions, and we come up with all these objects, and some of them are sentient. Does it help?
So the eternal jiva is what? It's a collection of the universal vasanas.
Yeah. We have all of these here. We have the macro and the micro. On the macrocosmic level, so there is the mind of Ishvara, the conscious causal mind of Ishvara. There is the conscious mind of the whole universe, which is in the mind of Ishvara, and there is the body of Ishvara. So when we pull it to say, okay, now how about the situation of the jiva? The jiva is the same thing. It's the overall vasanas of human jivas manifesting as apparent different names and forms, but they are just instruments so that awareness can experience. You understand? And they have physical bodies. This is somehow it's to help us to understand that this is all impersonal. It's all Ishvara playing its instruments. The more we understand the impersonal nature of this phenomenon, the more easily we establish ourselves in awareness, as consciousness.
What do you mean by universal mind of Ishvara? Does Ishvara have a mind?
Yes, yeah. The macrocosmic mind of God, we may say. On the macrocosm, the causal realm of the entire creation. Everything exists there in potential, in seed form, and then when circumstances are right, it manifests. Yeah.
It's like a collective mind?
Yes, a collective mind. Yeah. The collective mind of the universe. Just imagine, everything that was ever known and experienced is kept in there.
That collective mind is not seen as linked to a distinct personality, or is it a distinct personhood?
The collective mind? No.
Yes. It's just it's an amalgam of everything.
Yeah. It's everything that was ever known and experienced, and it's there in seed form. When we come to this level here, the conscious mind of the human jivas, right? So we know, I know what I know, everybody knows, and then if we would get the knowledge of all human jivas, and then we would say, wow, we human jivas, we know a lot, huh? Because we know from so many different fields of science, we know a lot. So the human jivas have a collective mind, but it still falls short compared with the mind of God. Because the mind of God knows what is known and knows what is not known. Up to recently, the mind of God knew about gravity, but the human jivas did not know about gravity as an example.
Do the subtle body of the jiva, is there an analog of that or a similar thing for Ishvara that he has an intellect, a mind? Well, you wouldn't have a mind because that would imply sense organs and that, would it?
The subtle body?
Yes, would Ishvara have a subtle body?
No, Ishvara does not have a subtle body. The jivas have 3 bodies, yeah. Ishvara is not an experienced entity, you understand? Ishvara is not an experiencing entity, he's not a knower, he's made of sattva guna, it's pure knowledge. He knows everything, therefore he can create and maintain and recycle everything. And from time to time it seems, as the scriptures say, the universe goes off, runs out of steam or gas, and then it goes out of existence. And then where it comes from? It comes from its causal body.
But Ishvara has an agency, doesn't? Like Ishvara is controller of the field of that the jivas are part of.
Yeah. Hello, sir.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine.
He's our friend.
Yeah? Ah, nice. You live in the area? You came from Europe as well?
I'm from Malaysia.
Malaysia? Oh. A long time I haven't been there. Yeah. Many years. Is it still growing?
Which one?
Is it still growing very fast?
Malaysia, yeah.
Yeah? Yes.
This is really more like a curiosity question. It's not about facilitating self-realization, but still I wonder, like last time we were talking about the last birth, so you're getting the last body and then you kind of go into whatever you want to put that now in words. I wonder if you're there, is it like a final destination, or might you come back after some time? Let's say, for example, now in Kali Yuga, so it's really not very nice to live. But after Kali Yuga, there becomes Satya Yuga again, and I think that's like a very nice place to be. So I was thinking if that is an option, like you leave, but then at some time, after I don't know like how many millions of years you
Right.
leave, you can come back.
So this is a personal question, right? You don't want to melt into the ocean of consciousness and not have the ticket to come back, right? You know what is our ticket to come back here? The desire to come back.
But now I wouldn't like to come back, but later in
Or you just fill up the form and then put in your dates and so on, presents to the Lord. So we don't need to be concerned. If we want to come back, chances are we are going to be back. But even if we lose the goal of changing objects in lithium, who knows? Maybe we are compelled to come back by some force that we don't quite understand, because understanding karma is not simple. The whole equation of karma, of the way Ishvara manages and governs everything, and everything affecting and connecting to everything, it's a very complex equation. So we don't have a clear understanding. We know that every one of our Prarabdha karmas relate to our actions, thoughts and actions. We know that there is a direct relationship. But this relationship goes on so many things, bouncing on something else, affecting, and so on, that we don't really, it's not like a straight line between one cause and one effect, one action and one result of an action. So we know that it relates to that. And if we have thoughts about coming back, chances are we come back. If we don't, if it's someone like Nisargadatta Maharaj used to express, he said, I'm done. He used to put it almost as if he was disgusted by this manifestation. He was a bit negative. The few of us who really learned and studied under Nisargadatta, all his pointers, because it was not really a teaching, sometimes his dispassion would go to the extreme to say, this is disgusting, I'm so done with this one here. Maybe because he was enjoying what he used to call a certain state of the absolute that could be more pleasing to the experiencing entity in another Maya Kosha, whatever juice he would come and get from that state in retrospect, So
If you are there, you don't want to come back because that's the best state you can be in, no?
well, it's very similar to deep sleep. There are some other states which is not Nirvikalpa Samadhi that you retain your intellect. So you're still witnessing that state. Those states may be very, very nice, very juice. And that's where the scriptures say, so watch out not to get stuck in Sattva, because however beautiful and luminous or blissful or loving and whatever your mind is going to produce that experience, remember, it's all projection of the mind. It's still something other than yourself, and it's bound by time. It will come and go, right? So it means to say, even if you don't want to come out of that state, you always come out, because a state is a state. It's an object. An object is time-bound. It comes and goes. There is only thing that does not come and go. And what is that, Sylvia? Huh? No, you have to have the direct knowledge, always fresh. Me, that's the key. It's what we are, each one of us, this pure light of consciousness, awareness. So we need to break with this tendency to project ourselves into some object of experience. The whole problem here is the self identify with its objects, with its experiences. Vedanta is going to say, hey, you are that, and there is only that. And you cannot produce or connect with that. You can only understand that you are that. Therefore, let's stop chasing objects and establish our minds firm on this knowledge until it works for us. Naturally, you know that. And there is no more mental, emotional agitation about trying to control one's experience.
Because I can observe, like on a very subtle level, that there is like boredom, even if there's like blissful experiences, but then it's going again. So like we had the other day, you said like the fulfillment of desire is the same than the absence of desire. So why at all to agitate the mind
Right.
if you come at the end to the same? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, why not to prevent the mind from rising its desires? Rising or rising? Rising.
Feeding your desire.
No, bring up.
Raising, yeah.
Raising. Yeah. I have a problem. When I was younger, I studied well and I had a very good Portuguese. And when I try to express myself in English, I always try to find some of those nicer words. And not always I have them in my English vocabulary. It's reason, huh? Yeah. So why not just prevent the mind to bring up those desires, if you know the desire is the source of our psychological agitation, suffering, and discomfort, dissatisfaction. And that's the great idea that comes into the mind of people who go into yoga and they want to produce a state where all objects are removed. They want to destroy the mind. They want to erase the world. You understand? They want to be done with all. Because they understood that the moment that the mind is in its awakened state, it projects objects, and then immediately there is mental concerns, agitation, and everything that comes from that. Frustrations, depressions, anger, and so on. Irritation. So that's why we love deep sleep. That's why the other day I did play a joke saying, oh, if samadhi does not work, if deep sleep does not work for you, or if knowledge does not work for you, at least we have deep sleep. Become a good deep sleeper. Find a way to eat the magic food and so on, so that you go into 6, 8, 10 hours of this deep sleep every day. Right?
Upon death, right? So the non-eternal jiva, that disappears, that's destroyed, correct? In death.
Yeah.
Now, what comes back?
The vasanas.
The
The individual
of that
vasanas.
jiva
Yeah.
in that previous life.
Of the guy behind you. The guy before you.
Now, extending a little bit more, the book, Tibetan book of living and dying, in your experience or your opinion, what is the purpose of modifying or assisting the process of death in the form of mantras or certain guidance?
Well, it's extremely helpful to die consciously, because when you come close to be lifted from your physical body as a mind, you have much better, and you have gone right through the psychological shock of knowing that you're gonna die. No, I have a disease here, or something is getting me here or there. So you already detaching from the body to a certain degree, especially if you have a spiritual background. And then if you are there and if you remain conscious, and you have a good chance to realize, right in there, that the body is dying, but you are something other than the body. That's all what happened to Ramana Maharaj. He was facing death, and he remained conscious. Most people go into unconsciousness because it's the most traumatizing experience, human experience, is the experience of death, because of the firm identification with the physical body. So if we can remain calm and conscious, and if we can question that event called death, and then we'll see that there is something, that you do your self-inquiry, and then you can extract the knowledge. Papaji used to play and say that you guys, don't worry, you have this understanding, of what you are in truth. If you don't get it now, just pay attention at your death. When the death comes, you're gonna get it. In the last moment, you're gonna get it, because you're gonna see that you're not your body. And but then he would say, but why wait for the last moment? Why not to understand it a little earlier and enjoy Maya, enjoy samsara from that standpoint of understanding, of knowing that you are free. So, but it happens exactly the other way around. Everybody is so deeply attached to the construct that the moment that something signals to us that we are going to die, we easily go in what we call coma state, unconsciously. I saw it a few times with relatives. One was very beautiful, very illustrative, because the person knew, was suspecting, and then one day on the dinner, Sunday lunch in Italy is big, everybody around the table, and then his cancer was all spread, and then something broke inside, and then he had bleeding inside that was big and very painful. Immediately his mind said, okay, now I'm gonna die. And then he went unconscious right there. And he was just in bed for several days, delirating, talked to people that had passed already, mama and mother and relatives and so on, but unconscious because it's too painful for someone who believes to be the body, and he has this confusion. He thinks my body gonna go, and then I'm gonna be without existence. My existence is gonna go with my body, and this is the fundamental problem of human jivas: ignorance, meaning to say this firm identification with that which is temporal, with that which is just an object coming and going. So it was you. Does that answer your question, more or less?
Just unconscious, that word, does that mean like deep sleep? Coma?
It may be, yeah. And some people keep coming and going, the mind keeps projecting some vasanas, some, who knows. Vasanas maybe project some image, some voice may come. I saw this with a close relative, We would be what he's talking about now. Try to understand what's coming out of that mind. But we are not planning to die, right? We don't need to be concerned. We hope and we wish and we trust Ishvara is going to give us a little more time. We finish our job, we affirm with our knowledge, and then when Ishvara comes and says, hey, okay, so you have enjoyed, you have got the knowledge, now it's enough, let me take this bag of bones and water, and then we can die like we see the people die in Hollywood. They die very beautifully. They just there and then, oh, I'm gonna die, and then they talk to their beloved, they say, yes, I love you, and you're, and then pop. So we can die that way. Yeah? Any more questions? Sadashiva Samrambam Shankaracharya Maryanam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Isvaro Gurate Meti Murti Beda Vibhagine Yomavada Yopatedahaya Dakshinamurtiya Namaha Sajmi Vedanta Siranta Gocharanta Magocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satiguru Pranatoshmaham Om Chanti Ramji Shamkara Dayananda. So, which verse we stopped last time? Huh? Oh yes, now it's the good one, the juice one.
The other ones were good.
Yeah, we had some dry verse we had to cruise through. Now we're gonna enjoy the juice of Vivekachudamani. But first, he wants to help us to understand the benefits of knowledge, of this knowledge of the non-dual nature of reality, without which we don't have the motivation to do this work, to get in contact with the scriptures and expose the mind for the knowledge contemplate, reflect, and apply, practice Vedanta. Practicing Vedanta, this is a word difficult to be understood. Now, how am I going to practice Vedanta? So, shall I do it from 7 to 8 in the morning? Is that enough? Now, you practice Vedanta by keeping the knowledge alive in your mind, so that on a moment-to-moment basis, it's always there, neutralizing any bits and pieces of remainings of ignorance that may come to condition one's experience, right? So the only way is to have it, or if you are smart and want to have it a shortcut, some people, they just get some audios of teachings of Dayananda, Ramji, and so on. And they just hook up to the audio and they just keep playing that 24/7. They are doing other things, they are playing. That's called like mass reconditioning. Yeah. Now, I'm just joking. You need to do one thing at a time, and the more we expose our mind to the teachings and we really contemplate on them, and then chances are that we will assimilate it and we're going to be able to have these teachings, this knowledge working for us. We work on the knowledge at the beginning so that the knowledge works for us later on. You understand? It naturally keeps clearing any one of those misconceptions, misunderstandings. The thought, meaning to say knowledge, which indicates the identity between the individual and the total, is free of duality and is consciousness alone. When the knowledge is firm, the one who has the knowledge is liberated while living. So that's the very notion of Jivamukta, is the one who is liberated while living. They have other names for someone who is liberated, death, and then it's liberated after the physical body. But it's okay, you are free. But if you don't have the body hooked up with your mind, you cannot be a knower in the experience, so you cannot enjoy the fruits of self-knowledge. So that's what Papaji used to say, so why not to enjoy a little bit the fruits of knowledge. Every thought is a confusion of the unreal with the real. This confusion is called adhyasa. We don't have our Sanskrit friend today, no. Adhyasa, or superimposition, this confusion. We recollect something that we perceive, then impose it on something else. In the case of the snake and the rope, we once either saw or obtained knowledge of a snake, and we then impose that knowledge on the rope. So any superimposition is based on previous impressions, previous knowledge, and every knowledge is gained by perception, contact, perceptual knowledge, either directly your own perception that somehow gives birth to your own perceptive knowledge, or indirect knowledge, the knowledge that is passed on by someone who describes or explains, oh, this was my knowledge, it's based on my own perceptions and my own inferential connections and so on. So this, all knowledge is based on perception and inference. So we can only superimpose the snake on the rope because we have a certain perceptive knowledge of what a snake is. We then impose that knowledge on the rope, the knowledge of the snake. The rope is real, the snake is adhyasa. Vedanta is a means of knowledge primarily concerned with clearing up this confusion through the knowledge of what is real, the self. It's not concerned with examining the nature of the snake. So this is very good pointer. because we are not interested in getting entangled with ignorance. We want to know what knowledge is, and then when the inner ignorance comes up, you just discriminate it. No, this was a confusion, was a projection, misapprehension of reality. Those ideas they were based on some misapprehensions, confusions, and so on. And we don't need to go into them to see how they smell, the color, and the texture, and how it came from. Oh, and I suffered for so long with this misconception and so on. No, we just say, okay, this is knowledge, this is experience. I want my life to be governed by knowledge. Therefore, I negate that which is based on self-ignorance. It's only concerned about self-knowledge. It's not concerned with examining the nature of the snake. Once the knowledge of what is real is born, so to speak, this confusion ends. You see the importance of exposing our mind to the scriptures on self-knowledge. So this did not come from any individual who said, okay, I have some good ideas, I read many books, I had a few epiphanies, and therefore I'm going to come up with the perfect means of knowledge for the modern man and woman. Now, this is the eternal knowledge. Now we have been talking about the eternal jiva. This is the eternal knowledge, has always been present. The same way gravity has always been present. This knowledge has always been present. You just ask, and it somehow is provided. The rich got it on that way. They start asking fundamental questions, and then those answers, they just popped in their mind. So we need to know what's knowledge and what is ignorance. And why so? Because most of us, we hold very dearly our notions, concepts, ideas, and they are all beautifully dressed up as wisdom and knowledge. And we are being deceived by Maya. All those beautiful pieces of concepts and notions dress up as knowledge, that they are all founded in the fundamental mistake of identification and apprehension that reality is duality and I am one among an infinity of other objects in the universe, and I have to do something to secure my existence. So we need to be exposed to the true knowledge of reality so that we develop some vasanas here, which are vasanas composed by true, clean, pure knowledge. Therefore, we start having them as a means to respond to the environment, and we will have the opportunity, the ability to discriminate when some of those thoughts and feelings, some vasanas, when they manifest here, we're going to be able to see if they are coming from what's left of my ignorance or if it's coming from knowledge. But if you don't know what knowledge is, and we have all those pieces of ignorance, that we believe it's knowledge because it's mine. It's mine. It may not be working for me, but I pretend that it's working. I may have a very sad heart and so on, but I put a beautiful smile face to the world. I pretend, no, all is good. I'm free and so on. I'm happy. I have everything. I have a wife, I have a car. That's my brother telling me, what do you go to India for? Life is very simple. Why you keep dropping every business that you begin, you drop, and then again you're in this condition. You are your worst enemy, he told me once. So this is ignorance, appearing as something very wise, very big knowledge. So we need to know what's knowledge and ignorance, so that we can, by and by, get rid of But we only know ignorance against the background of knowledge. That's the problem. We cannot get ignorance. You get one piece of ignorance, and then this piece of ignorance are going to determine if this other piece of ignorance is ignorance. So, on which base? So we need to have clear, pure knowledge as the base to determine whether we are being governed by our ignorance or knowledge. Once the knowledge of what is real is born, the confusion ends. When we perceive ourselves as a body-mind, all that's not included in that body-mind becomes others, the world of objects. We as individuals are defined in relation to the totality. So we are a very small speck of dust. It is huge totality. There is nothing more frightening than that thought, you know. The saying, you or that, rejects this definition by asserting that the individual and the total are one in his or her own essence, fundamental essence. Both are nothing other than consciousness. The totality, the individual, they are nothing but consciousness, which is Satya. That which pervades, that which sustains, the substratum of this projection. That's me. That's right. You. The saying, you and that, rejects this definition by asserting that the individual and the totality are one, both consciousness. The thought that we are consciousness is not of the same order as other thoughts, which confuse the unreal with the real. So where does this thought come, Tattvamasi? It comes from a different order of reality altogether, you know. From the individual, which is that, totally confused and identified with the not real, how can he establish that he is that? This thought will never come into his mind on its own. This thought comes from a different order of realities. That's why it's revealed knowledge, a revealed thought. When we think I am a husband or I am old, the real part of the statement is contained the phrase I am this and that, so and so. The unreal part in the attribution of a relationship, like I am old, I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a daughter, I'm a doctor or engineer or whatever. Consciousness has no attributes, for it's not limited. It cannot be defined by a thought. Every thought has an object to it. Every thought is objective. It's always in reference to an object. Yes?
It would be correct to say I am, basta? I am without no attributes and
Yeah, this is a very powerful meditation, but it has to go beyond the mental repetition of I am. It has to be connect with a sense feeling of your own existence as conscious awareness. You know, I am, I exist. You know? It's like that Maharaj used to put it, it's a thought feeling. It's the sense of existence within you. You know, the I sense, he used to put it. And it's a very powerful meditation, yes?
It also has to take place in the context of the whole teaching.
Huh?
It also has to take place in the context of the whole teaching. Otherwise,
Yes.
we're bound to get it wrong.
Yeah, and to say I am, James is saying, it needs to be in the context of the whole teaching. Otherwise, it may be just lost there. Like it's going to be just a small. And it has to be connected with the whole.
I understand, but it corresponds to the whole idea, exactly.
Yeah.
Because if the attributes are not
Yeah.
there, you don't.
Yeah, but you have to say that the I am thought is not consciousness. I am thought is reflect consciousness, is the jiva. Is the sattvic mind is the purified mind that is going to say I am, and is going to stop at that. I exist. And that's a good state. Good state of mind. Not a good state of mind for the sake that we enjoy it. No, like I used to do on my days of meditation. It's a good state of mind as a platform on which you can do your self-inquiry, your nididhyasana. That's the purpose of a sattvic mind. Every thought has an object, but the thought that the individual and the totality are one dissolves all objects. So it's not a thought per se, but that pure knowledge in which all thoughts are resolved, meaning to say consciousness or the self. Are we clear about that? Every thought is related to an object. We either got it from here, or got it from the contact here, or from during the waking state, the dream state, and so on, but it's always associated to an object. The thought is consciousness in contact with an object, and then there is a thought experience happening. But the thought I am consciousness, it's a pure knowledge, it's not an objective knowledge, it's knowledge itself, is in which all thoughts are resolved, is that consciousness in which all thoughts come and go and are resolved. When we try to think of consciousness, no object comes to mind. Is that so? It is, but it's not. Because we cannot think of something that cannot be objectified. So inevitably we project a symbol of awareness, of consciousness, and then we bring our mind into that. You know, a deity or the mountain or the guru or Shiva, Krishna or whatever. We just do that. But if we try to think of consciousness, just purely consciousness, so without associating it to any name and form, and then of course there will be no object coming to mind. But then the individual is going to ask, but how am I going to do that? To think of something that I have no reference to, something that I cannot even conceive in my mind. Something which is attributeless. So this antakarana vritti may be likened to the thought that swallows all thoughts. That's a nice way of putting it as well. So it's a kind of a thought, the contemplation on the self. It may be a thought that somehow is going to swallow and dissolve all other thoughts, because you cannot think of the self. The I thought is there trying to think of consciousness. It's very source of existence. It's very fundamental, independent, essential nature, and it cannot grasp it. And then that may bring about the dissolutions of all thoughts. It's going to swallow all thoughts, including the notion that we are individuals acting in a world of objects. There we go. Nirvikalpa Samadhi, it swallows everything. Okay? The individual and the objects that individuals' minds project. It's not that this knowledge will change our sensory perception of objects. The table will remain a table, and our Aunt Harriet will still look as she's always had. Is it a famous?
No, it's probably Edwin's Aunt Harriet.
Yeah, it's her aunt.
I don't know, probably.
So your aunt still will be seen as your aunt, your wife, the same thing. But both and all objects will be recognized as the self, appearing as its upadhis, its name and forms. The verse tells us that one who is established in this knowledge is liberated while living. Then the question is, from what is such a being liberated? That's a good question. If you don't have the text with you, what is liberation? Osho Rajneesh used to say, people talk about liberation, but liberation from what? And moreover, and what for? What are you going to do with the liberation? No? Because people say, I want to be liberated, then I'm going to go and I'm going to show everybody. I'm going to do something spiritually very stupid with my liberation.
Also what gets liberated?
Yeah, because the question here is liberation from what, right? Yeah. So the self is always ever liberate, free. We know that the nature of awareness is moksha, freedom, limitlessness. There is only one without a second, nothing but you, consciousness. So the self, that which is somehow pervading and making possible that we shine and we become those experiencing knowers of objects, is always free. We have been going through by now almost 3 weeks hammering on the logic behind this assertion that we are free. Consciousness is always ever free. So consciousness is not interested in any freedom. And so freedom is for the jiva, of course. Consciousness appears as a jiva, and somehow due to Maya, it's being under the spell of ignorance. And ignorance is, I'm this tiny little thing, and I need to secure, and so on, because I was born and I will die, and so on. Yes?
Is it liberation for the jiva, liberation from the jiva?
Both, yeah. When you look from this standpoint, when you stand as awareness and then you say, oh my God, I am awareness, and this object here somehow has deceived me for all these years, and now awareness, I am free from my jiva. You know? But most importantly, it's the jiva is free from its wrong notions, its ignorance. The idea that I am the construct body-mind. The jiva, in fact, is not that. That is just a play of the elements that come together and then goes back into the field, comes together. So the jiva is not really a jiva. So the jiva, why the jiva is going to be great, gaining all the benefits, and this chapter here is about the benefits of the knowledge of non-duality. Of course, the only knower in existence are the jivas. The benefit of the knowledge of non-duality for the jiva. So the jiva is the one mostly benefiting, because before self-knowledge, it's under the spell of ignorance, and then his life is conditioned by affliction, apprehension, fear, stress, anticipation, frustration. In other words, psychological suffering. Try to control one's life, tries to succeed, try to protect, try to secure. All those aspects of the human experience is based on those misconceptions. So the jiva is going to be free from those which the scriptures refer to as ignorance.
When the jiva frees from all the psychological suffering,
Yeah.
how can the jiva stand alone?
Well, it stands, but it does not stand. It stands at the eyes of the world, because the world is going to see the jiva paying his bills, going to do shopping, going biking and so on, at the eyes of the world, going to his job. Just an example. I bring a lot of these examples from my times with Papaji and Osho and Ramana and Sagadat. And when I first went to Lucknow, I was coming from Osho Rajneesh, and I had all these ideas of what is realized human being, as the enlightened one. Osho used to say, "I'm just an ordinary man," but he used to act so big that we all think, "Oh, I want to be that ordinary," I like that ordinary. It feels really big. Yeah. So when I went to Lucknow, to live in Lucknow, at the beginning, I had few encounters with Papaji that was very confusing to me. And one of them was to find him in the vegetable market near his house. He was buying potato and cauliflower and a few vegetables. And there is this poor creature, very poor, selling his vegetables on the floor, now with something like we see all around here. And Papaji is fighting for the price down. I look at that and say, what is wrong with this picture? How can a Mahatma, self-realized, come here and this guy is poor? Instead of paying the first price that he's asking, he is bargaining the price of the potato. It was very confusing, and a few other things were confusing, because the jiva, at the eyes of the world, remains there. Understand? Doing what it's programmed to do. Papaji was programmed to watch every rupee come out of his pocket, because for many decades he was very tight with money and whatnot. So he was doing that, a self-realized Mahatma at the age of 8 or 81 at the time. He was there bargaining for. So at the eyes of the world, you will see this jiva is just as jiva as it has always been. But for the jiva with self-knowledge, it's his sense of ownership of actions, doership, authorship, and so on. It's dissolved. It's totally being governed and lived by Ishvara, which is its fundamental nature. One is no longer trying to control one's experience and let the Lord play the jiva according to jiva's fundamental nature. And by the way, jiva's fundamental nature is not a static thing. It keeps changing. Especially when we get knowledge, you keep going more and more into the most fundamental aspects of the human nature. But it's still there. Every construct is different. Some of these Mahatmas, they have a construct of a saint. Some of them have a construct of a traditional sannyasa. Some are just a redneck from Montana, and so on. So every construct is different. So the jiva is going to be free, but only him himself knows the freedom, because it appears as a jiva like any other. It's freedom for the jiva most important. But the jiva is not a jiva. The jiva is awareness, and then the jiva is awareness. You say, "Oh my God, thanks to God, I got rid of this jiva. I'm free from the jiva as well." You see, it's all a question of where we are standing when we make certain statements. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, relatively speaking.
Huh?
Yeah, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
Where are you
Yeah.
Because sometimes in the early days I used to think that this self is liberated. That we are purifying the self and this climax of the self, self-development, this climax of that the self has become enlightened. But now, after many years, my understanding is that it's not the enlightenment for the self. Depends on perspective again. As you just say, it's just flowing once. It doesn't hold a constricted self as no one operating. It's operated.
Yeah. All this confusion is due to these false notions that the jiva, the mind, the intellect have to merge and disappear, and then what's left here to live one's life? And then you see these gurus that walking like that, and then you see gurus that say, I don't talk, I don't do anything, because I cannot show to the world that I'm just an ordinary person. I may act ordinarily, but only behind the curtains. But to my crowd that I have sold them into the idea that now I no longer exist, that I have merged up here, and then they're very careful. What is it? We are not covering too many questions. It's good that we don't have many verses left. Where did I stop, James, please?
Last paragraph of verse 83.
What is such
The verse tells us.
The verse tells us that one was established.
Yes.
The verse tells us that one who is established in this knowledge is liberated while living. From what is such a being liberated? So we covered that. From adhyasa. The confusing the real with the unreal. So ignorance, superimposing mithya on satya. Thinking limitless awareness has limitations. So the jiva in its construct has limitations. When he thinks that the jiva is the one becoming enlightened, it's going to somehow superimpose limitations on awareness. And that is the cause of suffering. And this freedom exists for one who has this knowledge, even as he continues to go about whatsoever business he may have as apparent individual in an apparent world. Verse 84. He or she is said to be liberated while living when self-knowledge is clear. Bliss is continuous and the world more or less forgotten. That's a very nice verse. Let's make a distinction here between self-knowledge and moksha somehow. It's said to be liberated while living, even when self-knowledge is clear. It's said to be liberated even while living when self-knowledge is clear. Bliss is continuous and the world more or less forgot. So I think it's appropriate to mention that self-realization is, in a way, the beginning of our spirituality. Once we really got this knowledge directly and we know it firsthand, and then we are on our way into moksha, freedom. So we still need to walk the talk, have this knowledge work for us, and to the degree that certain vasanas are not contradicting my knowledge, and then we can say like, so moksha. Moksha is freedom from binding, compulsive, adharmic vasanas which are not in harmony with the field, is not in harmony with the universal values of the field, but vasanas which are driven from the sense of self-gratification, me, mine, my likes and dislikes. So freedom is freedom from those binding, stupid vasanas. That's why one may be self-realized, but if one does not have the complete knowledge of karma and dharma, one is not going to enjoy and appreciate and enjoy the fruits of self-knowledge, because those vasanas are going to be conditioning one's experience, and one gets confused. So, I mean, I'm free, but so we need a complete knowledge, not only Satyamitya or self-knowledge, but Ishvara knowledge as well. And bliss is continuous, and the world is more or less forgotten. So this, to the degree that this knowledge is hard and fast, one has full confidence in this knowledge, so one enjoys a continuity of this freedom, this bliss, which is not the bliss as opposed to depression or happiness, unhappiness. It's a bliss birth of the conviction, the full certainty of your nature, identity as consciousness. And the implied meanings and the knowledge of the implied meanings of such certainty, it means I am purna, I'm full, whole, complete. Nothing to be added, nothing to be taken away. So this is the bliss, ananta, the bliss of fullness, completion, a bliss of that condition that says there's nothing missing here, there's nothing lacking. Whatsoever life brings is all good. Like Ramji says, it's good when it's good, and it's good when it's not good. It's good when it's sweet, it's good when it's bitter. Because, I am the very source of joy and security and bliss, satisfaction. So I enjoy some bitterness of life as well, and say, oh, nice, oh, I was getting bored with sweetness.
This bliss would be continuous even in an experience where you see James when he gets worked up about something and he's yelling at someone. The bliss is continuous through this apparently non-blissful experience. Yes,
it's the bliss. That's why it's when we present this bliss as an experience, and then we are caught up with the experiential notions of what moksha is. Then we have to go into sadhana and samadhis and the experience of meditations and bliss and so on. But by living in the world, you are subject to all kinds of energies that comes and prarabdha karmas that come in your way, and sometimes a little irritation, a little mood. It's like Ramji says. So the self-realized also have sometimes negative thoughts and emotions. But it's my direct experience that those negative thoughts and emotions, they just dry and dry and dry as time goes on, as one remains firm in the knowledge and carry on one's nididhyasana. Somehow I'm lucky that Ishvara has taken me and assigned me this position, like I go there and share the knowledge. I say, what is this, Ishvara? And then as a result, I'm all the time I'm reading, answering questions, writing satsangs, preparing for the next seminar. So this is nididhyasana. And I heard this Dayananda say, it's the best nididhyasana is to teach. But you can do the best possible nididhyasana also not teaching, depends on what Ishvara wants from you. But we need to keep our mind on this teaching. And then moments of irritation may come. Ramji may get grumpy sometimes. I had that experience firsthand with him a few times. When he's grumpy, he's not very nice. But guess what? In the next second moment, he's already smiling and all is over. And that's my experience. Some irritation comes and then it just slides away very quickly. You understand? The main thing is that the one firm with this knowledge knows that I'm not my vasanas, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not any one of those levels of experience. This discrimination is so clear that even when they come to surface, they slide away very quickly. In the old days I would get upset. I would just get so much attached to that, get angry, frustrated, and so on, and I would just put that in the field. I would make I'm miserable. I'm going to make somebody miserable around me as well. You know? So it's not necessarily mean that the person is a saint and no irritation or negative thought and emotion, but you don't take pride by anything, you don't take shame on anything. You know it's all Ishvara. That's what it means the Jiva resolves into Ishvara. That's why it's so important, Ishvara knowledge, because we keep resolving the Jiva into Ishvara, and then our life is just a piece of cake. Did we finish, or where are you? Are we here? We keep. We haven't started yet, huh? No, only the headline. Okay, then we take a break, 10, 15.